welcome to Let's Go Live. I'm Gigi Mar, and I have with me new adult romance author TJ Ryan. Welcome, TJ, or should I call you Ted?
I'm good with Eva. Eva's fine, so yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I will start off because I have to say, TJ and I are part of an anthology, and that's how I got to meet him. And he is a man writing romance, which we always appreciate because I feel like that's such an underrepresented demographic. And so I'm so excited to talk about how you got on this journey. But do you want to talk a little bit about our anthology that's launching in
Yeah, so the anthology is a collection of Greek retellings where five authors who are indie authors reimagined very classic Greek stories, and they either modernize it or they delve into the original tale and explore the themes of that with their own spin on it. So that's been very interesting to write.
Who did you pick for your retelling?
I picked Apollo and I picked specifically his story with Haymitch. So the story where he falls in love with a Spartan prince, and because of jealousy and rivalry, tragedy quickly ensues. So I kind of took that concept and thought, what would happen if these two were reincarnated over and over again? So yeah, I just kind of, it was a bit like Alexander the Great
Mhm.
meets Lauren Kate's Fallen, but making it more gay and more adult.
Okay, and it is good. And
Thank
if I
you.
wish we had it in paperback, it's not available yet, but it is available for pre-order, and so you
Yeah,
can have it in your inbox as soon as your clock ticks August 31st.
yeah, definitely.
But Ted, your cover is so good.
Thank
Can
you.
you have to kind of like paint a picture with words as to what it is because it's so good. I love it.
Yeah, I'd kind of gone through different covers. At first, it was like a fallen angel kind of vibe with like the torn wings. And now it's very much sort of Spartan with a Spartan warrior, misty background. So it definitely fit the vibe of what the story was about. So yeah, and ironically, it was one I made myself with a site I use for most of my graphics. I just played around on it and yeah, I made a cover I liked.
And tell everybody what the title of your story in the anthology.
Yes, so the title of my story is His Forever, and it's mainly set during the Spartan era, but then I kind of explore what the relationship would look like in the 1920s, in during World War II, or in Verona, Italy. So we see the characters in different timelines as well. But yeah, mainly it's Sparta.
It's so good.
Thank
So
you.
I obviously have read it before. You guys get your hands on it, but definitely go out and check our anthology. It's called As Fate Would Have It, and it's under Meg Stratton Publishing. So you'll find it on August 31st.
Yeah.
31st.
I'm really just looking forward to reading a physical copy and I can just binge everyone's stories.
I know
So yeah,
I've had a couple
yeah,
readers like, when's the paperback but going to be out because they want to annotate it? And I mean, I love little nerdy annotators. My daughter is one. I'm sort of one, but not to the degree that
mm,
my mom, my daughter is, and some of these people on Bookstagram, and I love it. I love how they annotate.
yeah. I'm not an annotator, but I think I saw it was oh, it was a Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington series,
Mhm.
and it was yeah, and but I
Three
ended
Little
up
Liars, I think.
oh no, not that one. It was about a fire. It was all the
Oh,
little fires
all the
everywhere.
little fires or
Yeah,
something.
little fires
Little
everywhere. And
fires.
I bought a copy at a second-hand bookshop, and it was like a newish copy because it had the cover of the TV show on it. But I was reading through it, And it was just like this person had just annotated all of the key plot points, and it's like the fire, and I was like, oh, spoiler. So yeah, I was just as well as reading the book, I was reading this person's thought process as they were reading through it. So
Okay,
yeah,
I love that.
mm. So yeah, that was the first time I'd read something with annotations in it.
Oh no, I feel like when you read, you don't always get everything the first time, or at least I don't. And
Mm.
the more I love fantasy, but oh my, you can miss a lot. And so
Yeah.
I people annotate because I'm like, oh, what did they discover that I
Mm.
missed?
Yeah, I completely get that. Which is why I'm glad with editors because they point out stuff that we forget as writers.
Oh, heck
Like, oh
yeah.
yeah, that happened in book one.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. I already said that I love that you're a man writing romance. We don't have many, and those that do it usually do it well, and I love reading their works. So tell me at the very beginning, why romance?
Yeah, so I've always been into writing, so mainly my main forte has been script writing. So I've had experience writing like short films and plays. So I've mainly done that. And I got a lot of people coming to me and saying that I wrote women very, very well. So that was always great to have those feedback. And after I graduated from university, kind of first time out of education, the pandemic hit less than a year later.
Oh,
So,
geez.
so any editing work I had for scripts had immediately dried up. Productions were stopping, agents weren't looking at my scripts, producers weren't looking at any of my scripts, and I was just like, and in the UK, because I'm also disabled, I was put on the vulnerable list and I couldn't go out at all. So it was very much, I was in proper lockdown during that time. So my family were very conscious of, comings and goings. So it was very kind of flowers in the attic. We were very, it was very isolating for
Oh,
that
Tess, I'm
time.
so
Yes,
sorry.
yeah, no, but I had a great support system with my family, and what really kind of made me think about writing for fiction was I'd always wanted to write books, but I'd never I'd always put it off, and I just kind of thought, well, I'm on lockdown, so now is kind of the best time to do it because if I don't do it now, I probably won't do it, which is how I kind of started writing. I got prepared for this between the lines. So I always thought I'd go into like thrillers or crime,
Yep.
but I kind of had this idea for this romance, and I think it was just a line of a media romance becomes real between an actor and a scriptwriter. And I was like, oh, this was an idea I had ages ago. And I was going to do it as a script, but when I started writing it as a book, the characters just kind of came and I just ran with it. Actually, that's not entirely true. The male character came very quick and he was very easy to write.
Hmm.
The female character, I actually rewrote the beginning of the book. It was a completely different character, and I thought, you're not the main character. So, so I actually rewrote the whole beginning with a whole new character, and it just, yeah, Tessa was just so organic to the story. So yeah, Between the Lines was actually a new adult romance, which was after a one night stand between an actor and an aspiring scriptwriter. They both kind of silently agree to never see each other again. But when the actor needs help to reinvent his image after a really bad interview, he kind of enlists his one night stand to be his fake girlfriend. And then gradually that becomes a real relationship because they'd had I always find when writers kind of have the first kiss or the first love scene right away, we lose the suspense and the character growth. So I kind of thought, well, they've already done stuff off page, so I can build the friendship now. They can build upon a more emotional relationship.
Yep.
So that, yeah, so that was obviously very fun to write. But then I added a lot of drama and conflict outside of it. And then when I got to the end of the book, I was like, I can't give them a happy ending in this book because there's just too much to resolve. So I was just like, I need to end it on a cliffhanger and kind of come back to them in book two. So yeah, that's what I did. And my editor advised against it, but I felt like it was right for the plot.
Okay, so let's pause there because there is so much to unpack.
Yeah.
And kudos for you to take lockdown and make it productive.
Mm.
I think the majority of the world did not, me included. But what a great way for you to put a spin. I mean, you are, you said immunocompromised, so it was forced upon you. And talk about Flowers in the Attic. I mean, we've all read it, we've all
Yeah.
seen it. And so it's got to be like you're living a dystopian. And then you turn this, like you really made lemonades out of lemons.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. And I'm not gonna lie, I did have binge sessions of Hell's Kitchen to kind of break up the pattern of, day by day. But yeah, I think writing was definitely a really good outlet. And obviously, what surprised me is the kind of response I've had from kind of the Bookstagram community, both from writers and readers, because it's just, yeah, the fact I've been able to write these characters and delve into quite dark themes, but not sensationalize it or gloss over these themes. And readers have responded to it has always just kind of been great to kind of have that kind of immediate response. Whereas when you write a script, it's very much like you've got to learn to let go. Even if you're directing something you've written, you're working with actors, you're working with camera crew, you're working with, editors. So there's always a constant stage of your story's going to get rewritten by all of these people, and you've got to be okay with it. Whereas with a book, it's like, actually, like, I can do whatever I want. And so, yes, but I am very much, I do kind of let the characters lead the story sometimes.
Well, I feel that's where the magic is at. And I tell you, to go from screenwriting to writing your own romance to where you're an indie, you can control everything and you can control what your characters do or say, like you said, against the advice of your editor. You can leave it on a cliffhanger and write the next book in the series. And it liberating though in a way, like as an escapism, since you are in lockdown, and from what I understand, the UK lockdown was pretty severe.
Yeah, it was very kind of severe. So
It's
it was,
escapism for you, wouldn't you say, in that moment?
yeah, I'd say so. And I also kind of found reading was a healthy outlet because obviously you want to keep updated with what was going on at the time.
Mhm.
But I just, yeah, you just kind of needed that escape to just have your mind be productive because obviously you can't control what
No,
was going on outside. So,
dystopian society.
yeah, it was very dystopian. And even when lockdown was lifted for a week or two, and I was able to go to, the movie theater or go for a meal and things you would normally take for advantage, and you were just able to do it.
Yeah.
And then suddenly lockdown was back on, and I was like, yeah, so it was a lot of back and forth, which was interestingly though, it was kind of good to have that creative writing project be totally separate. Like I've had people ask, "Do you want to write about COVID?" And I was like, "Not really. It's a bit too soon for that. Like maybe in a few years, but not when it's so fresh."
I read something in the Wall Street Journal shortly. I think it was like in late 2021, early 22. Dystopian novels tanked
Yeah,
after COVID because everybody was like, I lived in a dystopian. And
yeah,
so I was lucky because I'm in Houston, Texas, and we were only in lockdown for 2 months, March to May. And then after that, it was like our state government was like, heck with this. So
wow.
I know. And so I didn't experience what many, many parts of the world did. And so we were able to go out, literally nothing was locked down. Everything got lifted around the middle of May. But yet we're seeing UK, Italy, those in lockdown, and they don't even have so much as, a lot of those are apartment buildings or they're flats. And so there's not even a balcony
Yeah,
to go out.
so
And so to me, that would be so claustrophobic. And yet you take this experience and you make a beautiful love story. I'm just so fascinated by you being able to hard pivot under very difficult circumstances.
yeah, I mean, I've really I've you know that was just kind of the thing because I remember writing the first book. I dedicated it to a friend of mine who's also an actor, so we've kind of collaborated on projects out, whether it's screenwriting or script writing in general. And it was really just him going, so you're going to write more of it? Because I've sent him a few chapters and he's kind of been my unofficial beta reader.
Beautiful.
And he was like, yeah, that you're going to write some more of it? I was like, yeah, I think so. And it was just having one reader just wanting to be like, what happens next? And it's almost like back in the day when you're a fan fiction writer and you have random reviewers
Yep.
just being like, when's the next chapter coming? So I was like, oh, okay. So, but again, I kind of fell into self-publishing because I knew this kind of broke the stereotypes with the romance genre because the characters didn't have a happy ending. And I was just like, they need to earn a happy ending. They're not there yet. So that's why I kind of lent more into self-publishing because it was that, the book was out and it was done.
Yep.
So, but yeah, having that space to write something totally removed from what was going on was really good. And I think that's what kind of inspired me to go a bit darker with this book, with the sequel Unscripted, because I'd written it post lockdown and I wanted to tackle the themes of mental health I'd kind of alluded to in the first book through the main character. And I was really like, Tessa's got some serious emotional trauma, and I felt like it would be disingenuous if I just kind of ignored it and I just didn't address the fact that there was some severe trauma that she's gone through, and it's great to have a partner and friends and family who are supportive. But if you're not in the right headspace for that, you are going to fall back into unhealthy patterns. And it's knowing when to ask for help. And so I felt a lot of pressure writing that because I didn't want to trigger my readers, but also I didn't want to kind of just be like, oh, she's fine. And I was like, even when I got to the end of the first book, I was like, there's going to be an explosion. I don't know when, but I feel like she looks after everyone else, that she doesn't know what to do when she's got this partner who's willing to look after her and these friends who are like, I really do kind of explore found family in this as well. There's a whole part of the book where it goes into very dark themes, and you just see how friends from university are all at the hospital and they're in the waiting room, and it's like, I would never put these characters together in a room, but the fact they're all together for this one person just kind of shows that you've got your biological family and you've really got the family that you choose and they choose you. So I loved kind of exploring that. Yes, this is a romance, but this is really about friendships and love stories in many different ways. So
Well, I love that. And think about it. We had our biggest, in my opinion, one of our biggest mental health crises during COVID and then
yeah,
thereafter COVID. And so you writing into those themes and feeling the pressure to write it well, to not gloss over it, to not stereotype it is very tricky, but
yeah.
brave, very.
I mean, what was great about working with my editor again, because I worked with the same editor as the first book, so she knew these characters, was really reassuring was that she didn't have any critiques about how I portrayed her mental health spiral
Yeah.
in the book. And when it gets to the point where it gets really bad, her only thing was you need to give a content warning just at the start of the book to be safe. So I was like, oh, that's good. So
It's
I
a pat on the
kind of,
back that I did a
yeah,
good job, that I represented
yes,
it correctly.
definitely. And obviously, if I was to write similar themes, I know different characters will respond to it differently. Like, there's not one way to portray depression or, you know, dangerous thoughts or, you know, childhood trauma because people respond to the same things very differently. So this was literally just how this character responded to it based on her experiences.
No, I think that's important because one, I do write dark romance. I do
Mm.
have content warnings. I never want my books to ever trigger anybody. So I'm very cognizant. And they're very detailed on my website. I mean, very detailed. I don't shy away. And then, of course, in the back of my books, there's hotlines for help. But I do
Yeah,
think when you write to mental health, in my opinion, there's a responsibility there to do
yeah,
your research and to make sure that you write it appropriately, which can be challenging because, like you said, some readers may suffer from, I mean, there's a whole host of mental illness. And if their symptoms don't manifest that way, they may say, like, you didn't get it right. It's a really slippery slope that I
yeah,
relate to with, writing similar to what
yeah,
you write.
yeah. And also, I just kind of naturally incorporate representation. So obviously, as you can see from my cover, this is a
Beautiful.
interracial
Yeah,
couple throughout this series.
I love that.
And yeah, it was so difficult to find models that kind of fit what the characters look like.
Yeah.
And also the fact it's like an interracial romance, trying to find stock images of actors that looked like my characters that I could be like, okay, I could put these guys on the cover. Was I was quite happy that I found the cover designer I did, and we were able to kind of work with these images because I was like, yes, they actually look like how I described them, and it's not two separate images.
No, I
So
understand. When I search for covers, of course, I try to write diverse and inclusive,
yeah,
and it is very well, it's very underrepresented. And then if you
yeah,
write people of color, woo, that is very, very underrepresented as well.
yeah.
Tragically so.
I mean, even when I was just doing research, I found a stock images of a disabled couple. So a couple, both of them were in wheelchairs, and I thought, I've never seen that on a cover. So I might do that for a future book and just kind of have two disabled characters. But what I was going to say about the representation was obviously because one of my male lead is biracial, I kind of, I asked for feedback from, you know, people I knew in the acting industry, especially those who are mixed race or black, and you know, just hearing their stories and just being like, for example, the sexualization of men in the film industry doesn't really get explored. So, for example, one of the actors is shocked when a scene that wasn't written to be sexualized, when he sees an early edit and it is very sexualized, he's very uncomfortable to kind of see that it kind of leans into the female gaze, but not in a positive way. It's
Oh,
just like it's there for the sake of it.
yeah.
And in terms of casting, with the fact he's biracial does kind of lean into what kind of roles can he be put forward for. I mean, so I kind of did research in that regard. I mean, thankfully we're at a stage where you know TV and films are a lot more diverse without needing to be diverse. Like, it feels like we're getting to a point where any actor or an actress can pick up a script,
Finally,
and and it's just so refreshing to be like, yeah, no, this is just we're seeing people in wheelchairs or gay couples or interracial couples, and it's not part of the plot. It's just these actors are just right for the part, and it's
yeah,
just there.
it's not its own
So
theme. And that's what
yeah,
so you have sensitivity readers also that you can run
yeah.
by.
And I think because obviously people that I'm close with and friends with, we could have those honest conversations. I can, I didn't base any real life, incidents with auditions because I always felt like, better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
But just having, someone I trust be a sensitivity reader and just, I didn't get any critiques per se, but just to have that, yeah, this feels accurate, or this feels like something that would happen in a casting room or a conversation with a director, but then when the producers get involved, it's a completely different story. So again, just writing it from that perspective was kind of really helpful. And even with Tessa being in, you know, university, because this is new adult, just the logistics of trying to get into your field of work outside beyond graduation. Like, you've spent years studying this craft, and then you're just kind of let out into the wild.
To figure it out.
So yeah, so just as much as this is a romance, I unintentionally started to explore like a lot of themes that I I just kind of want to see, because I'm not really a romance reader, funny enough. Like, I love romances, but I hate the miscommunication trope.
Yeah.
The
Many
you
readers
know
do.
yeah, because it's just like, if there's conflict, give us good conflict. Where it's like, I can see both sides of this argument, and I don't know who I most agree with. So that's why I feel like unscripted allowed me to kind of lean away from the romance and have it still be a love story, but there's so much going on with the other characters.
There's so much depth. Where does that come from? Do you think it comes from all your years of being a screenwriter and seeing what works well in scripts and films and
Yeah,
translate?
yeah, because the, it's been really great that scripts I've written, I've also had the opportunity to direct some of them as
Ooh.
well. So I've been on set with these actors, and it's been great because when you hear your words spoken aloud by, humans, it's like, oh, maybe that can be said a bit differently, or I didn't imagine you saying it like that, but when you did, it worked. So I really like, I know some writers are so protective over what they've written, and I get it, but I actually like being like, yeah, if you want to say it differently, we can change the words as long as the meaning's still the same. So, yeah, having that opportunity to work with different people and, collaborate in that sense, it's almost like how I approach writing my characters in books, because it's like, I kind of, as much as I try and plan, I do kind of let the story improvise itself and just kind of go along a bit rather than sticking to a strict structure of here, here, and finish here.
Well, it's just like characters that if you
Yeah,
have actors bring your characters to life, they have a little bit different perspective and they have a different spin. And sometimes we only know what we know, but they'll come in and infuse their vision. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. And I feel that happens in writing. When you
yeah,
get to a certain point as an author, And I don't know where that is in your book, right? I don't know if that's page 10 or page 100. But at some point, that does happen as well when you write. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful to watch it unfold.
Yeah, and I think that with these books, especially with this series, obviously there's two more books planned. So there's going to be a final book in this official trilogy, and then the last book is going to be a prequel about a character that a lot of readers have responded to, who was like the mother figure of the male character, but she's also his agent as well. So it's going to be set like 13 years prior to the first book, where we
Oh,
see him as a child actor and we see her kind of take on this mentor role, but also like a maternal role as well. Because I found when I wrote the first book, I was like, he's not got a good relationship with his parents, but this woman who essentially works for him talks to him in a way that you'd expect a parent to kind of call you out on your behavior. So I always kind of wanted to write her character. So she's going to get her book at the end of the series, which I think is going to be fun to write because
that's
it's going to be very different.
brilliant, though, because readers love more, right? So when they go through the whole series and they're done with the story, and you come out then with a prequel like before the story,
Yeah.
readers adore that.
Yeah, because I find prequels are tough to get right because a part of you is like, well, I kind of already know what's going to happen, but I also want more time with these characters.
Or
So,
why? How did he end up the way he is? That's the
yeah,
biggest one. They're like, why is he this way? And then when you go and read 13 years prior, like, oh my gosh, it totally makes
yeah.
sense now.
Because it was really just something I wrote, something I think it was in the second book where Jonathan is thinking about his first table read as an actor, and obviously he would be about 10 or 11. And he's thinking about how they just changed the script at the last minute. And for a child to be like, I learned this script and now it's completely different. And he got really stressed out. And Maya was the one to be like, it's okay, like, we can just, just take your time with it. You've got the script. And she gave that boost of confidence. And I just thought, I would love to just write that scene, not just have him thinking about it, but be like, see it from Maya's perspective. And also the fact that, a little bit of a spoiler, but hopefully by this point, people who are watching this kind of know the story by now, because the books have been out for a while. Maya has an affair with Jonathan's father, who is married. So she's entwined with this family in loads of different ways. And I just kind of thought this she's a very flawed character, but readers love her and I love writing her because as flawed as she is, she's got a very strong moral compass and which is ironic. So she does some very shady things, but she's got a very clear indication of what's right and wrong.
I think
So
because we all have that one person in our life.
yeah. So yeah, she was very fun to write from these characters' perspectives, where they're seeing her as this terrifying, almost like mother of dragons figure. But then to strip her back and be like, no, this is a woman with layers in the fact that she's very vulnerable. And she sacrifices the man she loves to continue to be that trusted mentor to Jonathan. So I just thought that would be that's quite a bold sacrifice to do for someone who you're employed to work for and who manages you. But it kind of shows that she cared for him on a much deeper level. And I thought, I need to explore this in a prequel
Mhm.
and see how she got to this point where, one, she fell in love with a married man, but also she took on the role of a mother when she didn't have because his mother is a very successful French noir director, but she is not maternal in the slightest. So those dynamics are like, yeah, they need their own book. Like the adults need their own story.
So, Ted, this is such a very rich and a lot of depth. What was the inspiration for this? Where did your influence come from to write this story?
Yeah, no, it was honestly, I kind of want to explore something in the media, so like film and TV, because obviously I've had very sort of limited experience with it as a writer. But for example, with the It Ends With Us film, people are more talking about the drama of what's going on behind the scenes with the actors and the director rather than the film itself, which I find interesting because, you spend months or sometimes years on a project,
Yep.
and when it's finally out, people just want to almost gossip about, oh, what she said about this one. And it's like, you almost like, can we not talk about the film, please? And it's like, the actors in the first book, they're doing interview after interview with all these media outlets, and it's like, why are we not being asked about the script or how it was going into the movie or what the chemistry was like? But they're being asked like these very superficial questions, like representation, which is great, but because in this book the male lead was a person of color and the female lead was part of the LGBT community, people wanted to focus more on that, which again was great. But even the actors were like, can we just talk about the film? Like, it's great that we've got this representation, but we just want to talk about the movie, like how we felt doing it and how quickly like a scandal could affect whether you get recast or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wanted to explore that. So because Jonathan loses his temper in an interview when the interviewer is actually being very racist and homophobic, but it's one of those things where because I'm very big on representation, the interviewer is in a wheelchair, and as a wheelchair user myself, I was like, she's a very narcissistic character, nothing to do with her disability, but she just wants a good scoop, so she'll goad an interview until she gets what she wants. So the fact he loses his temper, there's a will they recast or will they postpone the film, which causes him to be like, okay, we need them to talk about something else. And his agent pulls in the let's do a love story like angle. So that's how they stage the fake relationship. So yeah, I really kind of wanted to explore like as much as people love movies,
Mm-hmm.
there's almost like this disconnect between the art and the artist, and I wanted to explore how it feels to kind of balance that when you're in it.
I think it's fascinating because we've all seen those interviews where you think they're going to ask about the actual material, and then they're asking something like, "What are you wearing?" or "Tell us about your
Yeah,
brand," and you're like, "What is happening?"
yeah, I just felt it kind of it comes across as a bit tone deaf, but I also kind of think it's very telling about, when films do kind of challenging subjects, you kind of you don't want to delve too much into it, which is kind of ironic for us as dark romance writers because we dive right into the dark and
All the
gritty
nitty
stuff.
gritty.
Yeah, and I just kind of feel like I kind of wrote something similar with the second book where Jonathan goes from big YA book adaptation franchise to doing a queer indie feature film where he plays the lead. Is also like a straight actor playing a gay character, and he's like, I don't care, it's a gay part. It's a really good part, and it's a lot more risque, and there's like more nudity and love scenes, and it's a it's a much more. It would be a film that would do great at indie festivals and would probably like get a lot of recognition if this was a real world film, but it wouldn't be kind of mainstream because it's quite risque. So he kind of goes from doing mainstream to more indie films and just kind of that's almost like when he gets seen as a serious actor because before that he's the pretty boy casting or the diverse casting or the male lead casting, but he's like, no, I want to do something that makes the audience think and feel and makes them feel angry or sad. So I wanted to kind of show that there's almost like you kind of go for mainstream when you want a popcorn, but when you go into indie films, you get more diversity, ironically enough,
Mm-hmm.
when it's an independent film. The casts are way more diverse, stories are way more complex, and I kind of wanted to show that doing within the book where he's like, I don't want to do mainstream anymore. Like, give me some indie films where I can make the audience uncomfortable. And the agents are quite worried about that. So I kind of wanted to explore that, but also as someone who had studied screenwriting and, I'd even done a course with the National Film and Television School, which is like Juilliard for
Yeah, big time.
yeah, which is like Juilliard for film and TV people over here. And I did like a year course with them after lockdown, which was great to kind of get back into screenwriting because my confidence had been knocked with it because of lockdown. So to have that ability to able to, write a script that had that representation and challenged people's views on, sexuality and disability representation. Like, I made a lot of people think in a good way on the course when I wrote that script, which I was very proud of. But also at the end of the day, it was a coming of age love story, like which we've seen with Dirty Dancing or so many other films. But this just happens between two boys. So, and it was like an interracial relationship with one of them being disabled. So it ticked a lot of boxes. But I wanted to write something that, yeah, just dealt with themes that people could relate to and didn't just kind of do the inspirational like side of it. Because it's very kind of interesting when you kind of have representation and people get so excited and it's like, this is just portraying the world as is. So it was really lovely when my editor kind of sent me a note during the edits being like, you've got a very diverse cast, but it's not a big deal. Like there are gay characters, there are trans characters, there's, very diverse characters. And I'm just like, well, yeah, that's the world we live in. It's just people living their lives.
Well, and I know that there's many readers that appreciate that. I have to say, disabled characters, if we think diversity and inclusion is kind of coming along, disabled, my mother was disabled better a majority of her whole life. There is very little representation of that. And they're
Yeah,
beautiful people. They're sexual people, right? We always think
yeah,
that we kind of put them in a box, but they have the same wants, desires, needs,
yeah.
so
And,
it's not really represented. I mean, it's minimal numbers. And so will you continue to write that?
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I've done that screenwriting for sure. I'm actually my next current work in progress. I'm writing a Romeo and Juliet retelling.
Ooh.
It's going to be a gay retelling, and it's set in London and explores gang culture. So it's like West Side Story, but a more gritty London version of it. And
Hey.
yeah, Juliet is disabled in this one and is also a boy.
Mhm.
So it kind of explores like a relationship between a rival gang,
Mhm.
but two people falling in love. And it's kind of a bit of a slow burn because I know Romeo and Juliet, it's so quick. Like it happens over 3 days. And it's just like what? You guys are like 14.
It's insta
It's
lust.
insta love to the
I
extreme.
have a series
And
all about insta lust, but my dark is a slow burn because you
yeah,
have to build it up in order to have like authenticity and depth and just a richness to the story. I just can't always throw characters together and it makes sense.
yeah. And I just, the insta love, obviously, respect to the writers who can do it and pull it off well. But I struggle with it because I'm like, you can be attracted to someone and probably have lust for
Mhm.
them. But I always find it baffling when it's like, no, it's true love. And it's like, well, it's not. Like,
Well,
so
I
yeah,
think
I'm not really a
it
fan of
works if you're like that fated mates. Then they talk about that insta bond and stuff. But no, like in reality, especially in your story, if they are from rival gangs, they're not
yeah,
going to be like, well,
yeah.
hello.
And there's also like the, the substance abuse is also addressed. So one of the
Mm.
characters has someone in their family who's struggled with addiction, and another one, they're deep in addiction. And there's a weird kind of link between those two characters where the addicts got each other involved. So Romeo and Juliet already have issues with the fact their families have a very toxic link, but
Yeah.
then in a weird way, they're finding like this very sweet and intimate relationship, but like outside of that.
Mhm.
But then it's like if you have someone who is in a wheelchair in very immediate danger from both sides of this war. And I'm just like, I just wanted to explore like this male Juliet is obviously going to be a hero in his own right, but I'm not going to ignore the fact that he is at high risk of danger
Yeah.
because of his disability. And it's like knowing when to ask for help and when to back off. But then if it's going to be to protect someone he cares about, he's probably going to go right in anyway. So I started writing that, and I realized I'm going to take a break from Between the Lines to write this book next. And it's very different because the one of the characters is a lot more sexual. Like
Mhm.
Romeo is very. I lean into the fact that Romeo was kind of in love with someone else before Juliet.
Yep.
So I kind of lean into the fact that he's a bit of a player. He doesn't want to commit.
Yeah.
There's different guys, different nights. But then
Mhm.
when he meets Juliet, it's like he likes the fact that it's like, hang on, there's, you're not obsessed with me right away. You're
Yeah.
actually quite annoyed with me. So they have to build a friendship, and then there's the sexual attraction. So it's a much more slow burn than Between the Lines was, and I'm enjoying writing that because, again, I feel like you know what I'm talking about. Character dynamics, when you write different characters, it just feels different when you're writing different relationships.
I call them palette cleansers. So when you're in a
Yeah,
series, especially when you write dark, traumatic, abuse, those situations, not that they can necessarily take a toll, but they linger in your brain longer. So sometimes you do need to switch to an entirely different series or book or
yeah,
project to wipe away that feeling so you can come back to that project
yeah.
renewed.
I always kind of think because I have a history of writing very heavy, dark content. And ironically, I always have like a healthy relationship at the heart of it. Like the characters are not the issue, it's everything else they're dealing with. So I feel like that helps writing a healthy relationship with natural conflict rather than you didn't speak to me about something we could have easily resolved. So we're going to break up and spend the rest of the book not speaking.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of have a history of writing very dark content, and yeah, I just kind of I I've kind of trained my brain to kind of switch off when I close the laptop.
Oh,
So when yeah, it's tough,
good.
but especially when I'm writing heavy content, but to just kind of be like, okay, when I'm done, I'm just going to leave it here and just do something else, read something else, watch something else, not linger on these feelings that my characters are feeling because they're feeling it, I'm not feeling it. So yeah, it's just kind of separating yourself, one, committing to it, but then also knowing when to have a break from it and just, relax.
Okay, so two-part question.
Hmm.
Walk us through your timeline of the first two books you wrote, and then tell us what the plan is for what's coming up.
Yeah, so the first book was during lockdown. I want to say it took about 9 months to write, and then I
How many pages
spent,
or how many words,
uh,
roughly?
um, it is about, so on the paperback it is 287, so quite small in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent about 3 months working with an editor, and this one, which is considerably thicker
Yeah.
because there's a lot more going on, was about 323.
Oh, much thicker. So how long
Yeah.
did it take you to write that second one?
So the second one I picked up almost, I want to say it took, I took about 10 months to write.
Oh,
And
faster.
yeah. And then I kind of spent a longer time on the edits. So initially it was gonna come out uh, last year around the same year as the first book, and I just thought that was too long, that was too short of a time to write two books, edit two books, and pay for edits. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I need more time with this book in particular, and I'm glad I postponed it. So I spent the best part of a year writing this and rewriting it just to make sure I got it right.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Especially
Yeah,
because you have so much depth in that one. You're dealing with so many different characters and struggles and trauma. And
yeah. I mean, this
to
was the
set
first
that,
one that
yeah, to set that
switched
for the
POVs.
third one.
Yeah, definitely. So with the third one, I haven't started writing it yet. I've kind of posted a little teaser. So I've done a cover reveal of what the book will look like. And, it's got a very positive response from readers. So they like the look of it.
Nice.
The third book will explore Tessa and Jonathan like going into the workplace and trying to maintain a long distance relationship. So, like Tessa is dealing with, her mental health, like she's in therapy, and after a very dark time in this book. So, and she's doing a course with a prestigious film school, which she initially wanted to do her postgraduate there, but they offered an alternative. And if she does that course, there's a chance she could do her postgraduate there. So she kind of took that without thinking about, oh, my boyfriend is now going to America for the best part of a year. Whereas he was thinking, you could do your postgraduate in America. Like, we can live together,
Come with me.
yeah, come with me. And it's like, he really thought it out. And she was like, let's not rush it. But then she rushes a big decision like this. So that will cause a little bit of conflict, which will be quite fun to write. But I always want to show healthy conflict in a relationship. I never kind of want to go into that toxic boyfriend or girlfriend trope.
Yeah.
So yeah, this will explore like, a long distance relationship, whether they can maintain a relationship without, all of the drama surrounding them. And I, uh, I am considering whether they take on a big life step move in the final book.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a possible plot twist which might change their dynamics. So I will leave that there. So the third book is wrapping everything up for these two and hopefully giving them a happy ending. but they've got a little bit of ways to go. And
You start writing that one then in 25?
yeah, I feel like I might start probably at the end of the year. I'll probably like because I'm currently working on. Well, I'm currently working on a children's book, ironically. Yeah,
Really?
so it's going to be something for the children in my family. So I'm writing it for them. But might, yeah, I might publish it for the wider reading community. But that's currently like a side project. In terms of what you can expect from my TJ run, it's going to be No Good Deed before the final Between book. So it's going to be my Romeo and Juliet retelling. And I
Is
will
that going
admit
to be one book or will that end up being a
that,
series? Or have
that
you?
might, yeah, that might be a duology because anyone who knows Romeo and Juliet, it gets very dramatic and a lot of people die. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind
Well, I mean,
of,
just Shakespeare in general.
yeah, so I'm kind of thinking
Macbeth.
I want to, yeah, so it might end on a cliffhanger and it might be a duology. It would probably be no longer than a duology, so only two books there. And I trying to think what else. I it was ironically doing the anthology has made me more confident with doing MM romances because I kind of worried of like would that not be well received because a lot of authors are doing gay romances. But I feel like the response we've got from the anthology has made me feel like no, people want to read two guys falling in love. So it kind of made
Love
me,
it. Love it, love it, love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Keep going.
yeah, so I just kind of thought, oh well, this is a good start. So so I'm gonna do Gay Romeo and Juliet, and I've kind of pitched it as Saltburn meets Flowers in the Attic.
Oh, okay. That can't be a romance. Would that be like a suspense?
Yeah, it's gonna be a very gothic horror
Oh.
suspense, like a very, and I intentionally want to explore like a toxic relationship. So that is going to be toxic on purpose.
Saltburn
And
was pretty toxic.
yeah, so I want to explore a
Flowers in
toxic
the
relationship,
Attic, of course, is like top tier
a
toxic. But would you
melodrama.
do it under your pen name? A different pen name?
I feel like I'm going to do it under my pen name because I feel like with my readers, they're open to me writing dark
Hmm.
stories, which is always good to see. But I will say with the Saltburn Flowers in the Attic book, there will be a main love interest to root for. And we see the main character go on a journey where it's like, this is unhealthy. This is actually what I should want. So we see character growth, which is always good to see
Yep.
in our characters. So yeah, but I kind of want to explore like the bad boy trope, and that's not always a good kind of character to pursue a relationship with.
You'll have to find it somewhere in there
Yeah,
if it's going to be. So, do you think it'll be romance?
I feel like it would be a romance, but not between the main characters.
Okay.
So it's going to be a very much like a aspiring artist goes to live in a creepy gothic manor with his estranged father, step family, and meets a very charismatic stepbrother who is essentially Jacob Aldorian Saltburn, but very dark.
That kid,
Yeah.
he's great.
So very dark and very, very toxic.
Mhm.
And initially gets swept up in the idea of the romance, but when it's like, this is actually making me feel uncomfortable and not good about myself. So I'm kind of seeing that because he's had a very kind of chaotic childhood, he's leaning into very chaotic relationships.
Oh, sure. That's the known. That's what he's used to.
So yeah, I kind of want to use that to kind of write a more coming of age story, but it's going to be very dark.
Yeah.
And I've kind of incorporated like a script I'm working on. I've given, if the script ever got made before this book came out, um, it's almost like a crossover, like a multiverse.
Ah,
So It's almost like if there's a timeline, the script I'm writing is set after the book I want to write.
Okay,
So I
so
know, so I know where the characters are going. It's just writing how they get to that very dark point.
well, and that's what. So you have a lot of works coming
Yeah,
up, a lot.
yeah, and I'm really glad that I've had this platform to be able to write these stories
Hmm.
and yeah, just try different stuff really. And even just post book reviews. I feel like it's just nice to be able to talk about books in general. So yeah, I've got quite a few things coming up, but I'm I'm not gonna promise anything because one, I don't want to disappoint any readers, and two, I don't want to stress myself out with deadlines until I know the books are done. So when the books are done, you guys will be the first to know, which yeah, I feel like is a much better way to tackle this. But I can say Between the Lines will be coming to audio soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I have two actors lined up for the roles. They are both great. I will not be making any official announcements till it's all confirmed because we've all kind of agreed to do it when it feels we can all do it and commit. But I will be definitely, this will be getting an audiobook, and I'm very excited to have readers kind of experience that story performed, especially with the actors I've got lined up to play Tessa and Jonathan. So,
Especially because you are in that creative outlet and you have the talent. So that's what I was wondering. Are you screenwriting right now, currently?
yeah, I am. So, I'm currently working on a book adaptation, which I will probably reveal what book it is when the agreement I have with the author in question is once she's happy with the script, then I can start sending it out to producers or competitions. But until I know she's happy with what I've written of her book, Baby, I'm kind of keeping what book it is under wraps
Of
until
course.
it's all good to be revealed. But I will say it's a fantasy book, which is always fun to write, especially when magic is involved.
Oh,
Because I usually write drama, so it's quite fun to write the fantastical elements and just have fun with the little moments of magic. So I'm enjoying writing that, and I'm also writing various other scripts, but almost like the sequel to my Saltburn book as a feature film, but it is about Toxic Boy's mother taking on a group of writers, and it's more about a writing retreat gone wrong when a writer meets another writer and they take a little bit too much from each other's lives. So life starts to mirror their art, and it's a very kind of dark and toxic relationship between two very creative people.
oh, that sounds so good.
Yeah,
So let me ask you this. Are you available for hire?
I am.
If other authors want to turn theirs into a screenplay and eventually try and get it made into a movie, because I know that's a very popular route that many authors want to do, they just don't have the contacts to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely be open to hire. Like, I've definitely had more collaborative relationships in the past as I'm, still looking for representation. But if anyone wanted me to, if anyone wanted to hire and have me work on their scripts, because I always think like with writing books, you have amazing authors, but they struggle to transition as screenwriters
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
because you need to visualize what your characters are feeling, but also leave it open for a director and the actors to interpret.
Mhm.
So it's finding that balance of, you've got to kind of strip your story back and imagine it in a totally different light. And I know a lot of authors do struggle with that, which is understandable.
It's two totally separate kinds of writing.
So yeah, I am definitely open for hire. I'd be happy to read a book, and if they wanted to hire me to write a script version of it, we can see where that goes.
So how would people get a hold of you?
So I feel like I do have a screenwriting platform, but I'm definitely more active on here, especially as I talk more with authors here. So if any authors are looking to have their books made into screenplays or would like to kind of discuss that, definitely the TJ Ryan platform is the best place to contact me.
To DM you, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, this has been the fastest hour on record.
Yeah, it really has.
So I think we need to schedule a part two
Absolutely.
because we
That'll be
haven't
great.
even scratched the surface of all the things that you do.
Well, thank you. Yeah, a part two would be great. I'd be happy to do that.
So I have a few rapid fire questions if you have a few more
Yeah,
minutes. All right, no pressure. Do you prefer paperbacks or do you like e-readers?
I'm leaning more towards e-readers nowadays. So yeah, e-readers.
They're so convenient.
So convenient, especially if you have the audio book of what you've got on your Kindle. You can literally go back and forth.
I love audiobooks. Are you a planter? Sorry, are you a plotter or a pantser?
I'm a little bit of both. Like I will plot out the story from beginning to end,
Oh,
probably on a page.
okay,
Whether that I do that for both my books and my screenplays, and then I'll be a pantser after that, where because I know where the story's going, I can just let the characters have fun with it.
nice. Do you write in first person or third person?
First person for books, aside from Forever His, because I wanted to challenge myself with third person. And obviously, I'm very familiar with third person for screenplays.
It's like two separate sides of your brain. I'm so impressed.
Yeah, so first person past tense, as third person present tense with screenplays. It's very kind of different stuff.
Way different, so difficult, so technically difficult. Okay, are you plot driven or character driven?
Character driven for sure. If I'm not invested in the characters, then I can't be invested in the plot.
Ooh, that's like a tweetable moment. Do you write alone? Do you write with a partner or group, or do you write in sprints?
I mainly write alone with screenplays. The actor friend of mine that I mentioned, who I've collaborated with, we've written scripts together, whether that's for him to act in or, just because we both had an idea.
Oh,
So I would definitely call him my writing partner on some projects, but mainly I'm very much a lone writer. I would
cool.
be very interested to try and write a book with another writer and maybe do parallel chapters where, because that would be very interesting. I've never done that.
I find that fascinating how you have successful co-author teams. I I have no idea how I personally would do that, but I find it fascinating how they can work, have it work and be successful.
Definitely, I'm very, I can honestly commend when I read a book by two writers and be like, this is equally good.
Yeah, seamless. Do you well, we talked about you outline or discovery writing, kind of both.
Yeah, kind of both. I will always outline just so I know, because I find if I discover too much, then the story gets a bit
Unbound.
chaotic. So I always need to know who my characters are and where they're going. Like with Jonathan and Tessa in Between the Lines, I knew they were going to break up by the end of the first book. I didn't know how much they would fall for each other in the first book, but I kind of discovered that as I wrote it.
Gotcha. Do you write in silence or do you write with music?
As silence mainly, or I find if I listen to music, I No, definitely if I listen to audiobooks, I will get distracted. So I
Okay,
mainly go with silence.
stay focused.
Hmm.
Write it. Do you write with a deadline or at your own pace?
I used to write with deadline, but now I write more at my own pace, which is a lot more of a relief, I will say.
Liberating. Do you write series or standalones?
At the moment, I'm writing series, but yeah, so I would say series. I think aside from Forever His, which was a standalone.
Yeah, for the anthology. Okay, last question. Do you write historical settings, present day, or future?
Present day, um, like I said with the anthology, that was my first time writing historical, which was very different, but also quite fun to write. But yeah, I enjoy more present day stuff because yeah, there's just more to explore really. Like I will say with historical fiction, especially setting it during Spartan era with Forever His, I really kind of homosexuality was very liberated back in the day.
From my
So
research, yes.
yeah, when I actually researched it, and you kind of see that, for example, Alexander the Great openly had a male lover, and it was not frowned upon that you know royalty was essentially their consort was a man.
Mhm.
So I just when I kind of thought, the conflict isn't really sexuality; it's more obviously another character has internalized biphobia. That's nothing to do with the world they live in, because Olympus and Sparta are very. There's so many LGBT characters in my retelling of it,
Mhm.
where characters are quite open with their sexuality. So it was really Zither just internalizing himself and hating himself for no reason other than his own paranoia, because no one else was giving that external fear to him.
But I think that's a common concern.
Yeah, definitely. So that was all. Yeah, so obviously I felt bad for his character because it was just kind of like if you found someone that made you happy, you wouldn't be feeling like this. So, but then he goes a bit chaotic and crazy towards the end of the story. So he goes full villain. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, but otherwise, I'm very much a contemporary writer because I just want to include natural diversity.
Mhm.
And I feel like nowadays it's more common to have LGBT or, you know, multicultural or, you know, disabled characters or just all of these different people just in one setting and have it not be plot point.
Yeah. No, 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 no. But I also think when you wrote him, we all are our own worst enemies. So his internal battle, I feel, is really well represented, and we all do it. Just pick the subject we all rake ourselves over the coals about.
Yeah, and I really wanted to emphasize that with the fact that he's seeing, you know, men pursue romantic relationships and it's completely normalized, whether you're in the God world or the human world. And it was really, I was like, this is just you, just kind of getting in your own head. So,
Well, yeah, like what you like, and sometimes we feel guilty about what we like.
yeah, as long as consenting adults and all is
Yeah,
good, then
that'll,
just be happy and be free.
yes. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so
thank
much. It has been wonderful
you.
getting to know you both as a partner in the anthology and then on this interview. And I just,
Absolutely.
we're
You as well.
I'll send you some dates when we can do a part two.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hopefully, I will have some more news about whatever I'm writing next, and I'll be able to promote it a bit more then as well.
Oh, and we can
Uh,
the writing craft and like the technical part. I think a lot of people want to know that because writing a book is on a lot of people's bucket list and they just need help. Like how? There's no one way to become an author. There's about 10,000 ways.
yeah, definitely, definitely. But thank you. This has been a really lovely interview, and definitely, we should definitely do a part two.
We will. Thank you so much, Ted. You take
Thank
care.
you. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye bye.